centre has to step on them. His image used to be everywhere. In his last months in power, the colonel relied increasingly on members of his family. His daughter Aisha made a fierce speech saying he'd never step down after the NATO bombing started in the spring. Aisha's departure to Algeria with Safia, her mother, and two of her brothers, Mohammed and Hannibal, has infuriated the National Transitional Council. It condemned Algeria for allowing them in, demanding they should all be tried as criminals. Saif al-Islam, the colonel's most prominent son and once his heir apparent, has disappeared from public view. Like his father, he's wanted by the International Criminal Court. Another son, Saadi, has been trying to broker a ceasefire and a deal on a transitional government since his father's fall, according to information received by the BBC. Anti-Gaddafi fighters are pushing closer to Sirte, the colonel's birthplace. It is a vital operation for the new powers in this land, but the big prize they want most of all is the colonel himself.
Our Middle East editor there, Jeremy Bone in Tripoli. Well, Libyan rebels say they believe that one of Colonel Gaddafi's sons, Khamis, was killed in an armed confrontation near the city of Tarhuna. A spokesman for the rebels told the Arabic television channel Al Arabiya that the former intelligence chief, Abdullah al-Zanussi, was killed in the same incident on Saturday on a road east of the capital, Tripoli. Both Khamis Gaddafi, who commanded an elite brigade, and Mr. Zanussi were key figures in Colonel Gaddafi's power structure. Well, Colonel Gaddafi himself is still at large, and rebel fighters say they're now within 20 miles of the leader's last stronghold, his hometown of Sirte. The BBC's Paul Wood is with the advancing forces and sent this report.
After many days of deadlock on the road to Sirte, the rebels are now surging ahead. Behind them, towns and people getting their first taste of freedom in a generation. Mahmoud Matar spent the past 21 years in jail. He remembers the bad food, the beatings, the murders of other prisoners.
You know, I didn't see my kids, my wife, for 12 years. You can imagine it? You can?
His son died fighting for the revolution a few days ago. A high price, but necessary, he told me. An officer's medal and uniform discarded by Gaddafi loyalists in flight. The revolution has certainly won, though it is not complete. Colonel Gaddafi is still at large. Places like Sirte still loyal to him. But the rebels say they will wait to avoid further bloodshed. There have been talks with tribal elders in Sirte. The advance was halted for a time because civilians were in a village ahead.
We speak for the peoples, Gaddafi peoples, to take these families out. Then we can fight.
The rebels continue to have almost euphoric levels of confidence. Negotiations have again failed to reach an agreement with tribal leaders on the peaceful handover of Sirte. But as you can see, reinforcements are being pushed up. The rebels are leapfrogging ahead, and they think over the next few days they will be fighting the last big battle of this war and their revolution. Next week would have marked 42 years of Colonel Gaddafi's rule. No Middle Eastern leader had been in power longer. Once this would have been a death sentence. Whatever happens in Sirte, Libyans know that era is at an end. Paul Wood, BBC News in eastern Libya.
A leaked document which appears to outline UN proposals for post-conflict Libya calls for up to 200 military observers and 190 UN police to help stabilise the country. It was apparently written by a special team assigned by the Secretary-General to draw up recommendations for the UN's new role in Libya, although the UN has not confirmed its authenticity. Barbara Plett reports from the United Nations.
The report appears to be an internal planning document that could form the basis for a new UN mandate in a post-conflict Libya. So, for example, on the security side, it recommends the possible deployment of up to 200 unarmed military observers. Now, initially, the idea had been for these observers to monitor a ceasefire between the regime and the rebels, but with the collapse of the regime, that's no longer necessary. So the document suggests that what they could be used to do is monitor the process of dealing with the troops who fought for the Gaddafi government. What to do with them, how to treat them, and how to bring them into the process if it's possible. Also, it calls for the deployment of up to 190 UN police officers to help establish law and order in the country, principally by training local police forces. And then on the political side, it talks about the transition to democracy, how the UN can help to support the establishment of an interim government that would be inclusive, that would be seen as legitimate, how it can help organize elections for a provisional body that would draw up a constitution, and then how it can help organize elections ultimately for a parliament and possibly also for a presidency. And of course, the UN has a lot of experience in this. But this is, again, as I said, a planning document. All of these things would only be implemented if requested by the Libyan transitional authorities and if authorized by the Security Council.
Now, Rico, still some problems being caused by the storm Irene on America's east coast.
That's right, Babita. Severe flooding in the northeastern U.S. after